So I know we all have that one pet that we admire and that we absolutely adore. For me, that'd be my pet Lancer. He's my dog. He's my emotional support, and I tell him everything, even though he's just a dog. Don't judge me. He may not be a certified therapy dog, but he's definitely my therapy when I'm struggling with something. So therapy dogs are very important to society for those people that have specific disorders. If you don't know what therapy is, the simplest term is it's a treatment for an injury or disease. And so I'm going to show you a few examples of therapy dogs. So there's autism therapy dogs that help kids with autism. There's mobility dogs, which basically flip on light switches and pick up objects that the person can't get themselves. There's sight guide dogs for those that are blind. And there's seizure detection dogs and PTSD therapy dogs, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. There's diabetic detection dogs. There's also mental health dogs for those that have mental disorders. There's also service dogs for the hearing impaired, so for the people that are deaf. There's allergy detection dogs. And there's also just therapy dogs that are basically there for someone who's sick or grieving. So I won't be talking about all of these, but I will be talking about a few examples of how therapy dogs help the elderly and how they help children and how they should be incorporated into society. So they help the elderly to live a longer life. There was one study on Alzheimer's disease, which it doesn't necessarily just affect the elderly, but that's the majority of the people that it happens to. And if you don't know what Alzheimer's is, it's basically a mental breakdown of the brain, and over time you forget how to eat, and you forget who you are, and eventually you forget how to breathe. So this study showed that the dog that was brought in with a person to see the Alzheimer's patient, over time the Alzheimer's patient actually ended up remembering who the person was in connection to the dog. So I know this is not a cure for Alzheimer's, but it's definitely a breakthrough in helping the disease. Another study that was from the Journal of Psychosocial Nursing and Health Services showed that elderly who walk their dogs actually end up living a longer life. So they may not be considered therapy dogs, but it's definitely helping the elderly person live longer. So I know it's not all about the elderly, we have everyone else that matters too. So research has been shown that it helps better teens' physical and psychosocial well-being. So an article by Kimberly Mockler in The New Direction in Deaf Education, there was an example that showed that this dog named Penny actually helped a little boy named Thomas. He was deaf and had cerebral palsy. If you don't know what that is, it basically affects your body movement and muscle coordination, so you forget how to do things and you're kind of antsy. So Penny actually helped Thomas learn how to sit and listen and do his homework. So he is making a slow but steady progress and is showing a lot of potential and improvement, especially in terms of eye contact and his ability to sit quietly and complete his homework. So therapy dogs have been proven to help all ages. They help kids within hospitals and schools listen and conquer their problems. So they're so helpful that they should be incorporated in places that they aren't necessarily allowed to go into, such as colleges and college dorms. So U.S. colleges have been turning down dogs of all kinds, not just therapy dogs. And of course, it's not all about therapy dogs. Therapy dogs are not just used for physical therapy, but they're also used for mental disorders. And so there was an article by Von Bergen who said that ESAs, which are emotional support animals, are used for psychiatric disabilities. And these dogs don't necessarily do specific tasks, but they're there for the person to have a companion. And so they keep the person company, and it actually benefits the person. So I think it will benefit those to have dogs in colleges with disorders so they can have a companion. And we want everyone to be successful in life and school, so by having therapy dogs on campus, I think it will benefit everyone. So I talked about not necessarily a cure for Alzheimer's, but just breaking the surface of curing it. How it helps elderly people live a longer life, and how Penny helped Thomas, and how dogs are just now being allowed to be in colleges. They're a major part of society, and without them, how would people conquer their problems? So there was a quote that says, "I've always had this feeling that all dogs are really therapy dogs," by Meg Donahue, and I agree with it. The end.